What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. It's time to talk about the Raptors and the NBA draft, and all eyes will be on the Raptors management and Masai Ujiri. Is he going to stick with this 6'8", 6'9" vision? Is he going to draft a center? Is he going to draft a point guard? Well, for today's video, I'm going to be giving you 3 draft targets the Raptors could look to draft with the 33rd overall pick in this year's NBA draft, as well as take a look at 2 players that might go undrafted that the Raptors could potentially sign. So if you're ready to watch this video, guys, make sure to hit the like button, as it does help get this video out a lot more. Let's try to get this to 110 likes. And if you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and for today's video, the shout out goes out to Get Active and Play. So Get Active and Play, thank you so much for supporting this channel through likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's talk about draft target number 1. And I feel like this one's not really getting a lot of talk in terms of Raptors targets, and that is Dillon Terry. Now, what makes Dillon Terry quite a very, very interesting piece for the Raptors to look at is the fact that he played the point guard position. And you look at him, he's very young. He's only 19 years old, and he's listed at 6'7", which fits in perfectly with Masai's vision of having tall guys that can switch onto different players. And of course, that wingspan of 7 feet is there as well. And he's 195 pounds, so he's going to need to get a little bit stronger, which again, he's only 19, so you can expect him to put on a little bit more weight as he grows in age. But talking about Dillon Terry, let's talk about his stats now. You may be looking at his stats and you're thinking 8 points, 4.8 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 1.2 steals isn't all that impressive. But I want you to look at his game beyond the stats. Now, I want you to focus on his improvements, and I'll break down his game in just a second. But you take a look at some of the improvements he has made from his previous season. His field goal percentage has jumped from 41.5% to 50%. His 2-point percentage has gone from 49% to 57.2%, as well as his 3-point shot has jumped 4%. And what's really impressive is his free throw percentage has jumped almost 13% there. So that's obviously a huge improvement, and his assist total has improved as well. He's obviously made huge strides to improve as a point guard, but what makes him so attractive is I want to give you this player comparison. Now, not necessarily to say he will be at that level, but when you think of point guards that are tall, that can play really good defense, think of someone like a DeJounte Murray. Now, obviously, DeJounte is not as tall as him, but Dillon Terry is able to guard players very nicely. He's an amazing defender. He can switch onto different players. You can play him at the 2. You can play him at the 1. He's got great court vision as well. He's great at getting his teammates involved. He can run the offense very smoothly as well. So this just gives the Raptors a piece off of the bench they can look to, have someone facilitate. Imagine having Dillon Terry out there with Delano Banton and, of course, Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher, and Precious Achiuwa. That would be very attractive lineup. And, of course, you want to throw Malachi Flynn in there. I know people aren't very high on him as well, but that is going to be quite an impressive lineup of having just players that can switch onto different guys, that can play amazing defense. And his 3-point shot is pretty good as well. He shot 36%, so he's not a bad 3-point shooter, which is something that Raptors should definitely look at. So he fits in with a lot of what the Raptors look for in certain guys, having that height, that wingspan, switchability. He's a solid defender. As you see there, he gets those steals. He's a pretty good facilitator. Doesn't necessarily show it on the stat sheet, but Dillon Terry is quite an interesting piece that the Raptors should definitely take a look at. So let's move on to draft target number 2 here. Now, this is a player personally I very much like. This is Caleb Houston, a 19 years old Canadian kid. He's listed at 6'8". Without shoes, he's 6'6", weighs about 205 pounds. I could not find a wingspan for him anywhere. I checked multiple sources, just nowhere to be found. But what I like about Caleb Houston, which I'll break down in just a second, but talking about his stats, he is a 3-point shooter, which the Raptors desperately need. Now, again, stats don't necessarily reflect his game. He was a little bit inconsistent with Michigan. He was coming in to college as a very coveted player, but again, he didn't really exactly live up to the hype. 35%. His field goal percentage, given his height, isn't all that impressive. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. He definitely struggled. He did not have a good season with Michigan. 38.4% is terrible for someone like Caleb Houston, given his height. And again, his free throw percentage is decent, but just looking at some of the things here, for someone that tall, he should be getting more rebounds. He should be getting at least a block a game, but you're not really seeing a lot of, again, not a lot of stats with him there, but 10 points isn't all that impressive, so why would the Raptors want to draft Caleb Houston? Well, when Dan Holzman spoke about what the Raptors look for in draft players, he talked about guys being high character, wanting to win, and although Caleb Houston is far from that, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. When you look at some of his interviews with the Raptors, when he worked out with them, you can notice that he is a very smart, intelligent individual, despite only being 19 years old. And no, the Raptors should not draft him because he's a smart individual player. He seems like he's a hard worker. Now, I want to give a player comparison for Caleb Houston as well. And I'm not, again, not necessarily saying he's obviously going to become Klay Thompson. I see a lot of Klay Thompson in his game. He rotates well when he does not have the ball. He moves around quite a bit. He's a good catch and shoot three-pointer. You pass it to him, he's going to be on that three-point line, ready to shoot. He's got good shooting mechanics. His shot looks smooth. Again, he had a little bit of a struggle with Michigan this season. He's a smart player. And on top of that, he actually sounds a lot like DeMar DeRozan when you listen to him on his interviews. And obviously, he has a lot of weaknesses. He's a streaky shooter. I think he has the tools to be there, but he also needs to play a little bit more physical. He needs to add a little bit more weight. He needs to add a little bit more strength. I think he's quite a ways away from having a positive impact on the Toronto Raptors. He needs to get a lot stronger. He plays very passively at times, but he's still a very intriguing player for all of the reasons listed. He's got that height. He's got that, well, not, I wouldn't say wingspan, but he's got the capabilities of being a really good player at the NBA level. I think the Raptors would definitely have to work with him. And the only thing I would say about Caleb Houston, I really do like him, but he does not exactly play like someone who's listed at 6'8". Again, without shoes, he's listed at 6'6". When you look at some of his highlights, he plays like he's much smaller than that. So he's going to have to really fill into his body, play a lot more physical, get more consistent with his shooting. But this is another player. Caleb Houston is a player I really like. And let's move on to our third player here. And this is someone you guys should be familiar with by now. And yes, I'm going to spread that Ishmael Kamagate propaganda. So yes, for those of you who may have seen my previous video, I believe the Raptors, I'm getting a sixth sense feeling. I'm calling it right now. I think the Raptors, if Ishmael Kamagate is there, the Raptors are definitely taking a look at him. So he's 21 years old, 6'11", 220 pounds. A very nice wingspan of 7'3". And obviously talking about his stats, he is very raw, very, very raw. And the Raptors are going to have to work wonders with him, and it's going to require a lot of patience. He's not going to be someone that comes in and has a huge impact right away. Realistically speaking, he's going to be in the G League for at least a season, as mentioned in my previous video. So again, you take a look at his stats, nothing really stands out. 11.3 points, 6.3 rebounds. He's a good rim protector, that's for sure. 1.6 blocks is quite impressive, and obviously his percentages from the field are pretty nice as well. 64.3% ain't too bad. He's obviously going to have to learn how to shoot. He does not shoot the three-point ball. And I think with experience, he just needs to get more comfortable with the NBA level talent again. Like I said, the Raptors will have to work with him in the G League. He is definitely a project, but I believe his ceiling is really high. Switchability-wise, Ishmael Kamagate will be able to switch onto different defenders. He's not slow-footed. He can protect the rim, which is something the Raptors desperately need. And on top of that, he is a lob threat as well. So imagine him with Scotty Barnes. Throw it up there and he'll go and get it. He's an athletic big man. Again, he needs a lot of little things he needs to work on to become a very impactful player for the Raptors. He's quite a ways away from that, but I really do believe the Raptors are high on him, because if they weren't, they would not send scouts all the way to France to have a look at him. That's how clearly the Raptors value him as well. So these are the three players I think the Raptors should seriously consider at that 33rd spot. Now let's take a look at two players that are possibly very likely to go undrafted and the Raptors should potentially look to sign. Now this one is very unlikely he goes undrafted unless he pulls a Terrence Davis and tells teams not to draft him. That is the brother of Justin Champagne, Julian Champagne, 20 years old. He's listed at 6'8", 220 pounds, got a wingspan of 6 feet 10 inches. Again, he is very different from his brother in some ways because he's known for his scoring. Now, you take a look at his scoring, averaged 19.2 points in about 34 minutes played. His field goal percentage was okay. It wasn't anything great, 41.4%. But what I like about him is he is a great three-point shooter. You take a look at his last couple of seasons on nearly 6 attempts per game, shot 38%, 33.7% isn't all that impressive, but you would obviously ideally like to have him around the 36 to 38 range, but he is a pretty solid shooter. Free throw percentage, again, it dipped a little bit, but I really like Julian Champagne. I think he could be a player that the Raptors could bring in and could have a positive impact in terms of scoring and being a really good bench player. Again, it's very unlikely Julian Champagne does go undrafted, but maybe he pulls a Terrence Davis, tells teams not to draft him, and he does have his brother playing for the Raptors, so I think that's a bonus. That is one reason why the Raptors could sign him, why he would want to sign with the Raptors as well, because you consider that Justin Champagne, last NBA draft, had several teams looking at him, but he specifically said he wanted to be on the Toronto Raptors, which says a lot. And of course, you have a brother like that coming into the NBA, you're obviously going to be someone that's going to be supportive and you would want to play with your brother. So I could definitely see something like that happening. And moving on to player number 2 here. Now, this one is quite an interesting player. In fact, probably the most interesting player out of all the players I have listed. This is David Roddy. Again, he's not projected to go late. I would say he's probably very likely to go undrafted. And this is a player the Raptors have obviously worked out, him and Julian Champagne as well. So David Roddy, 21 years old, 6'5", 252 pounds. 252 pounds for someone who's listed at 6'5". 6'5", that's enormous. He's got a wingspan of 6 feet, 11 and a half inches, nearly 7 foot wingspan. And the most impressive thing about this, when you take a look at his height and your weight, you're probably thinking he's a power forward. He is a center, but that is not the case. He's actually listed as a guard. So what I really like about David Roddy, when you talk about what he would bring to the Raptors, again, I'm not going to vouch for him as this mysterious hidden gem that Messiah has found and he's going to be our center for the future or power forward. No, that is not going to be David Roddy. But talking about some things he does really well, physicality-wise, he is a really physical player. And what stands out to me the most is his three-point percentage, 43.8% for someone his size. I mean, for him to be able to move that way, but also to be able to shoot three-pointers would be a massive, massive plus to have off of the bench. Again, you can play him at different positions given his physicality. I know people are very focused on the height aspect. He is listed at 6'5", but think of someone like a Grant Williams. I know they're different players, but someone like a Grant Williams, even Zion Williamson, he fits into that type of player who is very physical. He plays a lot bigger than his size. And again, there's just certain aspects of his game. Average 19.2 points, 7.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists is pretty good for him as well. And he's got 1.2 steals. So again, a little things to really like about David Roddy. And I love the fact that he shoots so well from the three-point line. Again, I'm not going to vouch him as this spectacular player that he's going to have a positive impact. He's still obviously going to need some things he needs to work on when he gets to the NBA. And very likely he's going to be with the Raptors 905 working in the G League as well. But he's definitely one of those players that fits into the mold of when we talk about these 6'5", 6'6" guys that play bigger than their size. Think of someone like a PJ Tucker. Think of someone like a Ishmael Wainwright. The Raptors fans absolutely loved. So again, David Roddy could be a very interesting piece. The Raptors could look to sign as an undrafted player. So I'll give him a 2-way contract, invite him to the summer league, see how he plays, and maybe have him fight for the last roster spot. But he is quite an interesting player given his size. But I do want to hear from you guys. What do you think of these players listed? Who would you like the Raptors to draft? And are there any names you have in mind that you would like the Raptors to sign? Any undrafted players that could go late in the second round? Or would you like the Raptors to acquire a second-round draft pick? Now, I think this is going to be a fantastic NBA draft, given how many players there are that are listed at 6'7", 6'8", that can handle the ball, that can do so many different things. So, personally, if I'm the Raptors, I'm trying to acquire another second-round pick to potentially take 2 of the 3 names I have listed. So again, it's going to be a fun NBA draft. And again, Julian Champagne is definitely a player you want to keep your eye on. I don't think he goes undrafted unless he tells teams specifically not to draft him. But we'll wait and see. It's going to be an exciting, fun draft. I know there's a lot of names people have looked at, and it's going to be a fun NBA draft. But I do want to hear from you guys. Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And this trivia question is, the Raptors drafted this 6'6", 206-pound player. Who is this player? Is it A, Terrence Ross? Is it B, Delon Wright? Is it C, DeMar DeRozan? Or is it D, OG Anunoby? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.